I should be unmuted. They should be able to hear us. And we should be live. If I've got anything going right here. And apparently there's 112 people already watching. Sorry, people were late. That's my computer's fault. 2 reasons. A, while I was taking a call about what happened to Tommy, the whole thing crashed, as it does. And I was stupid enough not to send Anna a link earlier on that I'd already set up, so I'm a bit thick. However, here we are. So I am with that Anna. That Anna has a YouTube channel, and I'm sure that somebody at some point will put a link in the description because I'm shit. Actually, I'm not sure. You could probably do that, actually, Anna. But if you can't, somebody...
Yeah, will do. Yeah. Oh, it seems to have crashed again.
See what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, crikey.
There are some days that this computer crashes a lot. I was just about to finish editing earlier on and pressed go on about surveillance, and the whole lot crashed. And it's just times. And it's funny because yesterday we're doing a live stream here, and 77 were in the chat going, "You'll have to change the volumes that we can't hear certain people." I haven't even gone live yet. If you're going to fucking play around my head, at least when we're live, you fucking morons. So there's a lot of interference like that, but there you go. Anyway, yeah, apparently they can hear us, and that Anna has managed to pop the link in. She's actually more skilled than I am. That's a thing. Women be able to do a job sensibly and with no problem. Moving on. Right. So Anna's quite a researcher into what's going on with kids at the moment in our schools, because that's your particular forte. And you found something that somebody here said that I'm a bit late on parade with this one, but that's Ireland. That's Ireland that's more advanced in many ways, like immigration, and they're more advanced with cultural Marxism that's been spoon-fed to them hard through the EU. So, in fact, Ireland gets a lot of stuff, as does, I think, Spain and things like that, with this kind of shit. And we'll get it later on because we allegedly left the EU, but it's debatable.
Very debatable.
You've got some information about what they're going to try and teach our kids, what it's called, and all the rest of it. So basically, I'm going to leave it to you. Over to you, Jen.
Okay, thank you. Well, I know this has been talked about. I did see a comment saying that Jim did speak about this like last year, but I've kind of had the benefit of having a child going into the school system or that age where we're looking at schools for her. And I've been able to talk with teachers, and I've spoken to a head teacher. I was provided with a link to some academic work by this particular organisation before it actually became a thing. There's a lot of things in it which are very dishonest, what's been given to the public as opposed to what it actually is. And I kind of want to talk about what this programme is, where it comes from, what the ideology is, and how it's going to affect children going forward. So I think
have they word saladed it so that it is very ambiguous?
Very. It's always the be kind of perspective that they want to give. Like, we want to teach our children to be kind. It's just like, okay, but pure acceptance of nonsense and indoctrination isn't kindness. That's dangerous. That's really, really dangerous. We've seen this in many other societies where they have kind of politicized children and groomed them to accepting absolutely everything. You don't have to touch a child to harm a child at the end of the day. And this really was big red flags for me. So I've got quite a bit of literature and I just want to go through some of it.
It's your end, because reading. Go on. Yours.
Okay. So No Outsiders, it piloted its scheme in 2014. And it's kind of gone from strength to strength, as it were, and officially registered itself as a charity in 2019. Now, on the Charity Commission's website, this is what they registered themselves, like that overview as. So it's No Outsiders prepares children for life in modern Britain, where they can live and work alongside anyone regardless of race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, age, gender reassignment, or disability. No Outsiders charity provides a 7-year program to be taught in primary schools with the aim of building community cohesion to prevent children from being drawn into terrorism and far-right activities. Now, that's on the official Charity Commission website.
Because obviously kids into 3, 4, 5, 6 are naturally born with an AK-47 in their hand, desperate to go out and commit fucking jihad, right?
Yeah, well, from what I can gather, the far right is just a term used for normal, for
Conservative
average.
values.
Yeah. And you don't even have to label yourself as conservative to understand that uncontrolled immigration's a problem, that has a drastic effect on, not just the economy, but for the public and for our culture. And some people in the world, they may be vehemently against, say, being gay or, people being Muslim or whatever. And so, like, the exercise of tolerance has been superseded by you have to accept this. And unfortunately, that has resulted in organisations like No Outsiders becoming more and more increasingly.
Not fascism.
Yeah.
Just checking I'm still on board. I know what my things are, but yeah, that is fascism.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I've used 3 schools so far, and only one of those schools talked about English and maths. That says quite a lot about the school system. When I can speak for myself, but probably quite confident that most people here want their children to be quite proficient in English and maths, science, things like that, to get good education. That's what children need, it's what they deserve. But a lot of education does now focus on social emotional learning, which I think is much more a family role than it is down to teachers. Children do have to learn to get along with other children. We have to learn that. But school is an exercise for that, but it's down to us parents and grandparents, family, to instill good values and things like that, not down to the school. But that's my own personal opinion. What do you reckon?
Personally, with schools, I would imagine schools to be a bit like a restaurant. If you went to you send your kid to school to be educated. If you sent your kid to an Indian restaurant to experience an Indian meal and you got served fish and chips, you'd be a bit pissed off. You're sending your kids to learn English, maths, and stuff like this. If they go in there and they learn how to be as a boy, how to be a better girl, or basically they get taught all about Islam, or they get taught all about how to sexually touch themselves, and if an adult wants to touch them, that's fine too. Then I'd suggest that what you've just sent them into is a fucking snake pit, right? And as parents, you've got to do better research on this, because they're going to try to do this to your kids without your consent. But no, if you send your kids to a place to have something taught to them, as it was said, that's the whole point of going to school. Then yeah, if they're not teaching them that. But the other thing is, the fact that school is made a legal requirement is a worry.
Well, this particular organisation isn't a legal requirement, but the Equality Act 2010 education is. That's part of what's known as now as a relationship and sex education, PSHE, things like that. Now, the 2010 Act, the Equality Act, is very complicated anyway. It's not worth the paper it's written on. It's just a weapon, essentially. And to teach children about this is going to be very complicated, and I'd argue it's not fit for purpose to teach children this very complicated piece of legislation. But No Outsiders, so going back to that, I was given this lovely bit of literature, but it started way before 2014. There was it was funded by the Economic and Social Research Council from September 2006, so I hadn't even left school then, to December 2008. And it was put in 15 primary schools. Oh, sorry, it was 17 sites. So 14 of them were primary schools, 1 nursery, 1 teaching training institution, and 1 local authority. And reading through this literature, there's nothing about boundaries that they put in place. They are pretty much set up a forum, as far as I can read here. They've set up a forum. They have had teacher researchers kind of breaking the boundaries, trying to instill this kind of sexual education throughout the curriculum, things like that. Now, it does say in here that it is a research drawn upon feminist, post-structuralist, and queer theory perspectives to explore and deconstruct what some philosophers and academics have referred to as the heterosexual matrix. That's queer theory. This is heavily queer theory based. So
what is exactly queer theory? I mean, basically, I understand straight theory. I don't talk about my sexuality because I don't need to blast it out there, but I'm pretty sure that I like women, and that's my understanding. There you go. But queer theory, is that all the different types of gay that you can be? I don't know. I mean,
well, I mean, this heterosexual matrix is part of queer theory, but essentially, queer theory is everything as a social construction and anything goes. That's what it boils down to.
You mean the sliding? Yeah, they brought this in a while back, didn't they? The sliding line from totally straight to bisexual to totally gay.
Yeah.
So, and you can be anywhere on that sliding scale depending on how you feel.
Well, it's all about, it's hyper individualistic, but apart, like we've certainly been in my 30s, I've been brought up to know that, or been taught that being gay is not a choice, things like that. Now I'm sure that's possibly true for many gay people, but in this bit of literature, they use being homosexual as an identity rather than a characteristic of your biology. It's a social construction.
That's
And
Marxism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It does refer here in this literature that basically heterosexuals have been afforded privileges that gay men and lesbians have not. So that's the oppressed and oppressor narrative. So straight people are oppressing the gays, and that's where it kind of rests on.
Fuck's sake. We've given them extra protection because in the old days there was gay bashers out there. I know this because even kids at school would go and beat some kids up because, oh, he's a faggot. That's what they would say, and then beat him up. And it was like, that's not very fair. And incidentally, he's not gay. Just saying. And you got people that are naturally camp, but weren't gay. Flamboyant, you could call it. But nevertheless, right, there were people that are at school who you would suspect to be gay. Now, coming out of school, as there were people that came out of the closet that said that they used to be quite conservative about who they told because it was still quite a dangerous thing, which is why you used to get Pride. Now, Pride, when they first went out there, was a lot of men and a few lesbians wandering down a road saying, we deserve not to be beaten up for being gay. And I agree, you do.
Yeah.
That's your thing, right? I believe that there are a lot of people that are born gay, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that from the moment they can actually look at a human being and form any sort of sexuality, they're looking at the same. Because one of my mates was like, he said, I didn't understand why I fancied a boy and not a girl. He said, I couldn't work it out. Everybody else is normal and I'm fucking not. That was the way he put it, not me, by the way. Anyway, he got on fine, but that's that. But what I've noticed as well at schools is that a lot of girls decided that they were going to try and play around, and they came out of school still allegedly straight, but while they were at school, they did sexual stuff with other girls. And I think they're going to label that as exploring themselves, right? Well, actually, you're exploring some other fucker, to be honest, but whatever. But they also embrace this a lot, but now it's gone much further than this, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's not about tolerance and things like that. It's about accepting, like the Stonewall, what's it called? The Stonewall statement of acceptance without exception. There's certain things that are okay to be in a society. Having one of the 3 sexual orientations is fine. Even being able to dress up as a woman when you're a bloke is perfectly acceptable, and that I vehemently disagree with. But it is acceptable. But it goes way beyond this kind of tolerance, acceptance. It's breaking down boundaries. And that is the whole idea. This is what No Outsiders is advocating for in their research.
So normalizing taboos.
Yeah.
Right.
And what else is there with paraphilias? I'm sure we can all name a particular one. We've already seen the normalization of the term MAP, minor attracted person, to be more politically correct. Sounds a lot nicer than the other one.
Well, you had Oprah Winfrey coming out and saying, well, when you're a little kid and somebody touches you, you can't say it doesn't feel nice. It does feel nice. She was live in front of the show, and you could actually see the show recalling, but because she was pushing and she is such a character, then they went, oh, well, yeah, I guess it is, yeah. And it was like, No, it fucking ain't.
No.
If you're 6 or 7 years old and some fucker's playing around with your John Thomas or whatever, that ain't right. Just fuck off. You're wrong then. But anyway, so carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go off on one.
No, it's fine. I mean, this is quite a large thesis. So I've only got one that I've really looked through, and the other one which I've had over the past couple of days to have a look through, and it is just it's madness. But what I found quite interesting, I say interesting, quite shocking, that there was a web discussion. So this whole research was a forum, like a private WhatsApp group or something, where they were feeding back on the groundworking research that they were doing. So a part of that was, and this is part of queer theory, this is 101, that they don't believe in the idea that the child is innocent, that they're not sexual. So they said here that children are asexual and innocent, that the normative is natural rather than socially constructive, and that sexuality is a private bodily issue that has no place in public, disembodied spaces such as schools. So it's to be discussed. It's to be out in the open. Now, what do they mean by that? No one's having, sex 24/7 out in public, things like that. We have social norms, and that applies to every single one of us.
You're getting lifted if you get caught out in public. So, yeah.
Yeah. But they used homosexuality as a weapon, using it as an identity, as a Trojan horse. And it states here that it's a strategic essentialist approach. So just saying it's okay to be gay, which is quite a normal statement, but it's using that as a weapon in to start this whole gender nonsense. You can be you can change your sex, you can be either both or neither, it could be something completely different. And this is where they're going in the schools. They're saying it's about being like gay acceptance, things like that, but it is not. It's about completely tearing down the boundaries. And I think this is going to reflect terribly on people who are gay, because people are going to get annoyed with this. It's already talk about agitation with parents.
If you ask the gay movement what they think about the LGBT movement, right? A lot of them say, I don't want fuck all to do with that. They're basically taking what we are and weaponizing it, and that's their opinions and not mine. So, but go on.
I know. So, when they're teaching the Equality Act and things like that in here, they do assemblies. They don't just do one-off classes. The idea is to get this rooted into every subject that they do. So if it's maths, science, English, they want this instilled in every part of the child's life. They have 40 books that they use. One of them is called You Need to Chill, and it's a guy. He says he's a woman. And he's already come out and said that being a gay man is a consolation prize because they're failed women, which is a bit like, right, okay. He's just a particularly heinous human being anyway, but he's also got a book called oh crikey, I can't remember. It's another quite famous book, but it details Grindr, the app where for gay sexual hookups. This is for, apparently this book is aimed at young adults, and I think that goes from like 11 plus in this country. Saying young adult is 11 plus. So this is giving children instructions on how to use these applications, how to find jollies with other people to be YouTube friendly. When I went to the school, and this is a Christian school, a Church of England school, they told me that under no uncertain circumstances do they teach about being gay or being trans. This isn't true. They have the books, they have this curriculum, and it starts from something as quite innocuous as like want to play with trucks and talking about, things that girls typically like to do, things that boys typically like to do, and it's okay if you like either one. Starts off with that, and then it's talking about, it's just like, just accept things that aren't normal to you. Just accept it without question. That's breaking down boundaries.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So it does go more into like year 4s, 5 and 6 is when they start talking about the trans stuff and things like that. But from reception, they talk about 2 male penguins that adopt an egg, and that's their kind of route in to introduce a lot more topics.
Right.
Yeah. Now this man, Andrew Moffat, he's got quite a few anecdotes throughout this research, but one of this came from Transgender Trend. Now this is about to be inclusive, right? Being inclusive means everyone, everyone without exception. Well, this came from a primary school where, you know, he's now he's a coach or a referee. Gareth Thomas came out as gay.
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he went and visited a primary school, and this was the anecdote, which didn't make Andrew Moffat look that good because he othered this child. So he says the whole school assembly was brought in Gareth Thomas to talk about, you know, accepting gay people. And he put, great, gay people are welcome in our school. There was one audible gasp from a child in year 6 that otherwise there was no reaction at all. It was quite nice as it demonstrated to the shocked child that he was alone in his reaction. His homophobia made him an outsider. What do you think that does to a child?
Makes him an outsider.
Yeah.
But
makes them an outsider. It humiliates them
or the
for
system
something that's quite
punishing.
shocking for a child.
Yeah. So, and if he comes from a household where the parents are homophobic anyway, which happens, then he is going to be more put off by gays. Now, look, you haven't got, I was going to say you haven't got to ram down your throat, but apparently pedos do. What I'm trying to say is you haven't got to have the fact that people out there are gay rammed down your throat so much as you don't have to accept it. But in my view, there's always going to be gay people. There always was. It just was behind closed doors and it was a lot more murky and dirty. Now, there's a couple that live across the road from me. They dress conservatively. They don't mince about the place. They look like they wear the same cagoules when they go out on their bikes. You know, they're lovely creatures, right? Lovely people, right? They say hello, and they always put up the liberal, like vote liberal. So, and I think they know that I'm to the right in what I talk about, but they're lovely. Yeah. That's gay, right? That's fine. Now, I don't expect those people would ever be seen dead on one of those marches or whatever, but you know, that's fine. I mean, there's lesbians that I know of that are fucking fine, no problem. It's when you want to show hints of what you like to do sexually during your activities, or you know, when they're out and about. But with regards to school, I've seen some other stuff, but you'll probably get onto that in a minute, so I won't talk about it. But it's just they don't need to know any of this, and certainly kids don't need sexualizing until, well, they don't even need to know the facts of life until at least puberty.
Yeah. So which should be a very clinical thing. This is how babies are made, and that's how it is. End of story. That there's no, I mean, even that could be quite contentious because, you know, generally speaking, in the West and most of the world, it is a man and a woman love each other very much. Then they get married and then they have babies. You know, so that there are arguments for even the, you know, discussing the biology.
Yeah.
But this is encouraging. If there's one thing that children do, is when they talk about it, they want to do it. If we're told it's forbidden, they're going to want to do it. I was informed by the school that they do a gentle approach to these things, and that Andrew Moffat and other people like that, they're really nice. You know, you've got to see they're very charismatic. It's just like, well, they're more often than not the type of people you really don't want around your children.
Groomers.
Yeah. You don't you don't have to touch a child to hurt them. I'm putting this idea in their head now. I come from like a TERF perspective, I guess. I'm not a feminist, but that's what the label has been ushered upon me.
Some
because
people here won't know what a TERF is. So,
yeah. So TERF is trans exclusionary radical feminist. It's given to anyone, particularly women, who know you can't change your sex, and that there are severe consequences when you allow men into women's spaces, particularly. It changes the dynamic and it puts us more at risk. 67% of, like, you know, in a gender neutral or unisex space, women and girls are 67% more likely to be sexually assaulted, raped, things like that. And a lot of schools now are adopting gender neutral spaces, so children can't get away from this. Now, if children are being fed that you have to accept a boy as a girl, if they say, I'm not comfortable with that because that is actually a boy, then that child's going to be ostracized, not just by teachers, but their peers who have been taught, you cannot question this.
I've
We've
got some
already
good
had.
news on this, by the way.
Sorry.
You know, you were saying about these unisex. I got told by a parent that his kid or the daughter will not go into these unisex because they know exactly what's going to happen. They don't want boys looking at them. So they just simply boycott it. So the kids are making up their decision by boycotting it. So the next step will be to take away the male toilet only and the girl toilet only and just leave the middle one in an effort to force the little buggers into the place. But he was saying these kids that are being taught this shit, they know it's wrong. And they talk about it behind the scenes. And even though they realize if they don't listen to this and mark out their course in such a way that they get a pass, because otherwise they fail, they realize that this is all Marxist bullshit. And they hate the teachers that are pushing this shit, which is quite a plus.
Well, the thing, with things like No Outsiders, their aim is to make sure that doesn't happen by saying you have to accept, you have to believe the party. You've got to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. That's exactly what they're trying to do. So a little boy identifies as a girl, therefore he can use the spaces for girls and vice versa. Now, my old secondary school, weirdly enough, the two that I went to, there was news in Redux, which is a kind of like trans exclusion radical feminist organization, which came out of my old secondary school that banned a little girl from using the women's space, the girls' space, and said you have to use the unisex space. She phoned her dad and said, "This is what's going on." They suspended her. Because she said, "I'm not comfortable. I don't feel safe in these spaces." Because she wasn't allowed to go and use a single sex spaces for girls.
So that's a particularly Marxist, hardline bunch of cunts that I'm trying to send them people out. We're going to get this right. They're going to be people that are much more indoctrinated as teachers to push the party line, right? And it's what it is. It's basically politics. It's breaking down all the social constructs so they can get their socialist or Marxist fucking utopia, and we'll all be great. And actually, that's not what they want. What they want is total domination, total control over everybody, degeneracy for all, right? And they want these kids accepting sexuality so they can fuck them. That's the end of it, right? That's exactly where we are. They want kids so that they don't get nicked riding the ass off a fucking a person of underage, right? Now, we've had PI in the old days, person of, what's it stood for anyway?
Pedophile information exchange.
Yeah, then we've had MAP, minor attracted person. You can change the names to it as many times as you like. What it means is you like kids and you're trying to circumnavigate the rules and make it all a bit more acceptable. Problem is, many people in the positions of power are also nonce. Many people in the BBC are nonce. Many people in the civil service are all on board with this shit. And whatever it takes, doesn't matter if it means breaking a generation of kids, they want their socialism. They're going to get it, right?
Yeah.
What they don't realize is when these things come along is that eventually these people, we all rise up, say, fuck it, drag these people out, and all bad things happen. Now, nobody wants bad things to happen, but that's when you go on to history, this is what happens, especially when you're trying to fuck our kids. We generally get shitty about that, okay? And even though they've tried to normalize it because there's a certain ideology that thinks it's fucking fine to do it up and down the country, and the police take their side, which is, God, what do I say?
It's truly mad. When I confronted the primary school, I was told that we're an inclusive school, but maybe this isn't the school for you.
No, it's fucking not, man.
Yeah. But they did say to me that when I questioned them, because apparently they had a little girl who identified as a boy, which is really big red flags anyway, because there's so many comorbidities with children who say they're transgender. Often it's a neglect at home, unfettered access to the internet. Sometimes it's coupled with anxiety, depression, autism, ADHD, various other things. It's quite a complicated subject, which is the kind of psychological aspect behind that is way beyond me.
Mind, isn't it? That's suffering from something or other.
Yeah. And it's blindly accepted. We're going to affirm this. Now, apparently, this little girl was able to go and on a residential school trip and stay in the boys' dormitories. Now, they did inform me that, yes, they did speak to parents about this, about having a girl stay in a boys' space. And I said, did you use language which is plain and clear? Did you say a girl who says she's a boy wants to stay with the boys and not the girls? Or did you say transgender boy wants to stay with the boys? And they quite happily said we used the appropriate language, which is transgender boy. Now, when you say transgender boy, not many people know what that means. They're going to be like, a boy wants to sleep in the boys' space? Yeah, of course. But no, that's a girl. And I was told that, oh, they're all such good friends. Right, okay, so you've got year sixes having mixed sex spaces, lots of hormones and whatever going around, and they don't think there's a safeguarding risk. This is a safeguarding risk. They've allowed for this, and No Outsiders backs that up. It backs it up all the way. And the more this gets ingrained into the schools, the less chance we're going to be able to, teach children boundaries, to go, you have to use concise language, because language actually matters. So if a boy goes into a girl's space and my daughter comes home and says, Mum, there's a boy going into women's spaces, I understand what that means. But if she starts using she and her pronouns and things like that, it's going to be very complicated to be like, well, you shouldn't have a problem with a girl using girls' spaces. But it's not. It's a boy. This is why we shouldn't ever compel our speech in this kind of way. It doesn't make any sense. It's a huge safeguarding risk.
I'm finding this difficult, this topic.
I know it's really challenging, but the one thing I just want parents to know exactly what No Outsiders does.
Let me tell you, when I went to school, they said what this child is going to need, to my mother, right, is obviously a pencil case and stuff like that, and a Bible. Now, what is it? Condoms and lube when you go to school? Because, I mean, fuck, seriously. Yeah. Oh, geez. Carry on, sir.
Yeah. So going back to the research, which was taking place in the noughties, they have a whole chapter here. A whole chapter for No Outsiders, bearing in mind this is for 5 to 11-year-olds, and it talks about toys, pleasures, and the future.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It gave an example of, in America, there was a sex toy company that donated some of its profits to an LGBT youth scheme, and they tried to shut that up. They didn't want it known to the public that a sex toy seller was donating some of their profits to this organization. So I just want to read this bit to you because I found this, I say fascinating, but I feel sick when I read it. So it says about the story about the donation. It says, I want to hold this story in the background as an entry to thinking about the questions of pleasure, institutions, identities, temporarily, and adult-child relations as they can relate to some questions or anxieties framing for the proposal of education in the body, queering primary education seminar conducted by No Outsiders Project. And it was funded by the government. This was funded by the government. So Andrew has been a big part of this throughout the whole thing. He's been teaching since 1995. He was an active participant in this. He is fully immersed in self and queer theory, and now he's leading the charge, going into our schools, etc. So the seminar proposal asks, at what cost do we deny children's and teachers' sexuality? What do we lose if desire and pleasure are banned from the classroom?
Scoring, you cunt! You learn maths and English. Fuck. Do you know what? I'd love to have more kids, right? I'd love to meet somebody and have more kids. But this is the part that I would end up. This is the fucking hill I'd die on.
It's like that for a lot of us. Now, Andrew he certainly did target women to try and accept this stuff. He said he would make jokes with the women, like the teachers, other staff, administration, dinner ladies, and be a little bit more open, but portray the good homosexual.
Is it because women are, he thinks that women are going to be more susceptible to his charm?
Yeah. We are more susceptible. We are more agreeable. That's just a fact. And he wouldn't dare do it with straight men. Why? Because straight men are less likely to put up with that.
Right.
He
Okay.
puts us on the
I've had
same
this
level as gay
by
men
a
that we'll
viewer.
accept all of this. And not all gay men accept this.
No, there's a lot of look.
Yeah.
I know you're very against the trans, right? But there are some trans in my Discord. There's also gays on there, and they all think this is utter bollocks and cancer of the bollocks. Now, somebody who's watching this at the moment is messaging me. Fuck off, you stalker. Just kidding. The term in school, they are pushing the subject that I have requested that the daughter sits out. It's a Catholic school, for fuck's sake. It starts with the wonders of different people, then it leads into sexual acts. Never mentions a married couple who went straight with children. 9-year-old, year 5, mentioned this to her. 9-year-old.
Yeah. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to introduce the concept of, no boundaries for a start, which is always dangerous, but trying to teach children very sexual things. They're also teaching them about, and this was given to me. Well, I was just out there really to get at the school when I was sitting there. Read through it's got all the books where they teach it in the curriculum, 7 years. So that's the whole primary education. It's saying it doesn't teach about being gay or trans. It's not true, because they have got books, they've got assemblies, they have got so much resources on this. But this one really stood out, and I did challenge this. So it's got like answering difficult questions from children. So this one is one of them is two men how can two men have a baby? There are lots of different ways to have children. For example, some children are adopted or fostered. All families are different. The most important thing is in a family is love. It doesn't matter who the parents are. Well, if they're going to start talking about different things about how children are made, children are going to ask the questions. Now, I've got no problem telling my baby at the moment, just like, mummy went popping out, come a baby. Eventually, she's going to know there's a little bit more to it. But for now, age appropriate. Yeah, so she's going to ask things like that. Yeah. Now, also, when are they going to introduce the concept of surrogacy, which is becoming increasingly more popular? And a lot of people do argue that it is human trafficking. So but that is a story for another day. But it says Chloe used to be a boy, but now he says he's a girl. How can you change from a boy to a girl? Or
hang on, the way that's worded, Chloe used to be a boy, but now he says he's a girl. So even in that statement, they haven't accepted he's a girl because they're still referring to him as the he.
Well, now, so I guess it's like a question from children.
Right.
It's fantastic. Good for Chloe that she can finally be herself. Chloe hasn't really changed. She used to think she had to try and be a boy, but now she knows she can be Chloe. I'm really pleased for her. We're all different, aren't we? We just need to make sure Chloe knows we accept her now. She is being her true self. That's referring to a boy. Now, unfortunately for Chloe, if he starts socially transitioning, and it's not a hypothetical, but there's many children that are going through this, puberty blockers, and the FDA in America, who probably have some interest in making sure some of this information doesn't get out, couldn't not say that actually puberty blockers is causing vision loss and brain swelling in children.
Fucking shave on.
Yeah, and the rates of social transition to medical pathway is very, very high. It's very, very high. They're given all the special treatment. The trans child is the golden lamb. It's a special, special child born in the wrong body. Well, I mean, where's their original body for a start? But, this is an active promotion of harming children. You're breaking the boundaries of girls, breaking the boundaries of boys, mixing them up, things like that. I mean, these children, if they start on puberty blockers and things like that, you can't pause puberty. Not really, because you can't get that time back. Time goes by. You can't just stand up for 50 years and then go through puberty. You won't even make it to 50.
No, and also I think if you stop puberty happening, there's a lot of the stuff that goes on at that time that if you deter or stop it, that has life-changing and irreparable damage in the future. I know that when they're new to cats, the male cat, that its physical difference is notable, right, at a later date. So a cat that stayed a tomboy, big hair around here and lots of other stuff, right? A cat that is not like lopped off early doors, right, doesn't look fucking anything like that. But that's just a cat. By the way, somebody's messaging me away because they'll be talking to you. She's a friend, right? We'll be talking to you and asking you lots of questions because has a daughter. What's going plenty to say. Stalker here. Ask her to jump on Discord, please, straight after this chat. Thank you. Yeah, right, we've done that. Right, fuck off. So yeah. Also, if you want to talk to Anna after, I will try to get her onto Discord. No pressure, Anna.
Yeah, I'll just pop to the shop and then I'll jump on Discord.
Yeah, and then what you can do a little Q&A, but we will obviously answer. We'll put the phones on later because we're nowhere near through this. I've got a bad feeling, haven't we? There's a lot more to go.
Yeah, I don't want to, because there's so much and it's kind of jumping from bit to bit. But this is the kind of subject it is. It's deliberately built in such a way it's confusing to just normal people. Like, I've read this time and time again, and it's just like, my God. But the long and the short of it, they want to ruin your children's boundaries. They want them to be indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking. They don't care about their education or their well-being. Safeguarding is a nice buzzword, but they ultimately do not care. They care about their own narcissism. That's what they care about. They do not care about children. But this is, it's a hell of a document to read through. And I mean, I've been to uni, a waste of time that bloody well was. But, I've been able to skim.
That's the case for a lot of people. They're encouraged to go onto uni because of reasons. And when they actually go there, all they end up with is a debt that's hanging around their neck for many years to come, and a qualification that they either at a later date realize they've got no interest in the subject or the topic, or they won't use because of other reasons. I actually believe that they want to get you in debt, and also 2 extra, 3 extra, 4, 5 years of extra indoctrination, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not doing good for the age population. People older are going to have to work, because instead of going to work at 16, we're now going to work at 21, 22.
So they also kept us on for a few more years. My day, I was out. Was I 15 and a bit, or nearly 16? Oh, I can't remember. I couldn't wait to get the fuck out of the place. I wasn't there much anyway. I was not very good, but which saved me actually looking at it now. But anyway, I wondered why they decided, because when they decided to keep the kids on later, I thought that's a bit fucking odd. Why? What more do they need to know? But now I know it's social conditioning that they're staying on for, and indoctrination.
Yeah. I mean, when I was retraining in hairdressing, I overheard one of these kind of like tutor groups, and they were talking about like extremism, and I stood there for 5 minutes, and I was listening in, and all they were talking about was the far right. It's the far right. It's the far right. It's like, well, then what about the far left? If you're going to talk about one, you have to talk about the other.
What about religious extremism?
Exactly.
There's all sorts of extremism. There's sexual extremism. I mean, I've realized now just how fucking boring I am in consideration, or old fashioned. I like, man, woman, happy days, hold hands, go to bed, do what people do, which is normal, and then, cheers.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, there's people that, that come to you through what you're doing here. And after a while of talking to them, you get to realize that actually they're kinky fuckers. And I'm like, wow, I'm just boring. But this has been pushed on kids as the norm. But if this is the starting blocks for kids, right, that you can have, or you can be as many sexualities as you like, you can have as many lovers as you like, and all this sort of stuff. Well, if they start out as that, they may well look for more. What else is there? I mean, it would be like starting a druggie out on heroin and then saying progress from there. For me, I just, But also, we should talk about, if they're leading kids down the road to transgenderism, the suicide rate after the operation on transgender people doubles to what it was before. And that's something that we need to obviously look at. And does a school get financially incentivized to tick boxes and say, well, we've helped these kids come out to be what they really were, which is whatever these people have indoctrinated them to be? And yet again, I was talking to a trans person who works in advice to other trans people, and most of the time she says that if you talk to them properly, 95% won't even ever go through the operation, because you can put them on certain chemicals first that will take away their sexual desire, and with that goes a lot of the other things. She says there's also all these other processes that, if the person is put through all these different processes first rather than gone straight to, they'll never get to the end result. They'll have given up on it. They'll have, if it was a fad, which this happens, if it's a social thing that they want to be accepted because of that, they'll get bored. If it's a mental health problem, which in most cases it is, right, it can get treated, and these people can go on to live a life that people would consider normal.
Yeah, but it's presuming that everyone who says they're transgender has gender dysphoria, which is a terrible name. I mean, that it used to be called gender identity crisis or something to the lines of that. And it used to, these operations used to be called sex reassignment surgeries. They're now called gender affirming care. So they keep changing the language. Sex reassignment sounds a lot harsher than gender affirming care. That sounds nice and fluffy. But the realistic, these are experimental procedures that do cause a lot of harm to people.
Yeah, and the end result is permanently medicated, right? So you're now a trustee in chemistry for the rest of your life. The falling out of that. Now, by the way, I can't read that second word because I'm useless. Suicide
ideation.
What does that mean?
So it's just like being suicidal tendencies, idolizing, the idea of being suicidal.
Okay, I got that from a trans person that deals with them, so I don't know. Tell me. I haven't got a clue. I just know that a lot of people they're suicidal before and they're more suicidal after when they have the operation and realize it changed nothing. And they can't go back.
It's filled with a lot, we don't know the rates because, Big Pharma definitely plays a big part in this. Certainly with children, putting this in children's head, they averaged it out to be about $1 million, and this in American dollars, $1 million per trans child. Because when you start putting them on all these chemicals, you start doing these surgeries goes wrong. I mean, the surgeries are expensive enough, but when they go wrong, they have to pay more. Then they've got to take these hormones for life. That costs a lot of money. Then they've got other problems. Like we have got 16-year-olds in this country, girls who say they're boys that have been put on testosterone that now have osteoporosis, and they go through the menopause. They get vaginal I can't pronounce it, atrophy. They get hysterectomies, things like that. This costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of problems that come out of being medicalized trans, and we don't even know the psychological part of affirming somebody being the opposite sex or no sex at all. That is not a benign concept.
There's an interesting concept. The teacher or the school got $6,000 a year for him being dyslexic with ADHD. What would they be getting for these trans?
Well, that's a very good point. We don't know. I mean, we would have to do a freedom of access request and see if they do get any more funding. It wouldn't surprise me if they do get more funding for it.
I'd imagine there has to be some sort of incentive, otherwise it wouldn't push it.
Money.
And
control, definitely control.
Is there a lot more to talk about on this, or do you want to take calls?
Oh, we could take calls.
I don't know if anybody's going to call in, and this is going to be harrowing all the same anyway.
Oh, yeah, I tell you, I have not slept well since I've been reading this. It's just reading through this stuff, and
I don't drink much these days, but I did think about going for I don't even drink spirits normally anyway, but going for one of those toffee vodkas, like.
Don't blame you.
Oh, it's grim. It's just grim. Anyway, there is a call-in number if anybody does want to speak about this. I don't blame you if you don't. It's just fucking horrible.
But gender dysphoria is a very overused, ambiguous term. It's not. I mean, we know of rapid onset gender dysphoria, so it's predominantly girls that start saying that they're boys and things like that. But it's different with boys. There's different motivations. Certainly with men who come out later on in life as trans, they're more often than not autogynephiles. Oh, there's calls.
Hello, the fun line. Oh, hello. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. I've just got a quick question. So I did put in the comments, I did a little bit of research, and gender dysphoria, it does, you'll agree, it does exist. But there was a study that came out, and it's approximately 0.004% in men,
right,
at a maximum. and slightly less for women, even though we're seeing more girls transitioning than boys for some strange reason. So I'll do the maths for you. That's 1 in 4 million.
Right.
Yet they're in every single school. And there's even a member of my own family. So my stepbrother's daughter is transitioning to be a boy. But nobody wants to talk about it. It's none of the family are discussing it. It's just a taboo subject.
It's not natural what you're saying. I mean, the natural rate is the rate that you said, but what we've got is a enhanced, pushed.
Indoctrination.
So basically, people are doing it because it gives them more status, or they've been hoodwinked, brainwashed, call it what you want. Right. But if they'd not talked about it, then one school in God knows how many, because I don't know how many schools it takes to make 4 million. So would have a kid that would have that problem. So the other thing to mention is what's to gain out of this being pushed? Because this is the point we haven't talked about. What are they gaining out of turning kids from happy go as you like kids to kids that now have gender dysphoria and other problems? What's the purpose? This is the point. I mean,
the destruction of society.
Right. Okay, we'll agree there.
It's all part of it. It's all part and parcel of destroying society as we know it, and just causing extra layers of stress on top of everything else that's going on. Just keeping everyone's vibrations low, and negative.
Well, it's not going to be a positive thing, I don't think, for everybody but the 1 in 4 million. And if it's the 1 in 4 million, it might be positive for that person. But yeah.
No, and as your guest was saying, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Anna.
So this school, this twisted school that she was talking about, was Twisted Charity. It sounds twisted to me.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, very, very few of these schools are mentioning that boys transitioning into girls, they're going to have to insert what is essentially a dildo inside themselves several times a day.
Stop it all falling out, innit?
To keep the wound open, to keep which is essentially a wound open to stop it from healing up. None of the really, really negative aspects of transitioning is explained to any of these kids. It's all happy clappy and it's great. It's got such a positive spin on it, and none of it's positive.
No.
Unless you've got genuine gender dysphoria, then it could change your life and you could end up being happy and fulfilled for the rest of your life.
I truly believe there are people. Happening. I believe there are people that generally always believe they were born in the wrong body all of their life, and no amount of like counseling or anything is ever going to change that. And these people will feel better once they've been through it. But they are, as you say, absolutely, an incredibly small minority. Now, what people don't understand is for that percentage, that 1 in fucking 4 million, we don't have a problem with them. If it's going to make them happy, right, then that's fine. That one person, right? But pushing it on people that didn't need it and turning kids mentally ill and ruining their future, we have a problem with that.
We know that a lot of these children that claim to be gender dysphoric are autistic.
In that group, in any other group.
So why is there a bigger correlation?
Sorry, I spoke over you.
Sorry, you say that in a minute again, if you could, Anna. But what's the correlation, or why is there such a significant correlation between autism and these people? Anna, I'll put that to you.
I really don't know. It's really complicated because autism's really complicated. There's people who think it's a learning disability. We've got people who think that it's a sensory problem, and how they can get hoodwinked into gender ideology, I don't know. But we just know that it does affect autistic people, autistic children, a lot more than it affects like normal
right,
people.
Caller, before you go down your theory, if it's a medical one, I'm on board, but we can't go down that road, mate. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what you get binned off permanently.
Yeah,
but we're on the same page, all right?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there was only without
saying it only came about in the last sort of 40 years, didn't it?
Yeah. When we were kids, Simon, because there's not much of an age difference between me and you. When me and you were very, very, very young, we only had 2 or 3 in us.
Yeah.
But now there's 20 odd.
Yeah.
You know, and there's definitely a correlation there. And going back to your guest again on the name of shit with names, I think a lot of autistic kids are more susceptible because they're more impressionable. You know,
right?
But they won't be disregarded or refused hormone blockers and, you know, the whole process just because they've got a learning disability. They'll probably encourage that, you know, because it's an easy target. She's an easy target, or he's an easy target.
Yeah,
it's just mental.
But it's like turning the entire society weaker, more mentally ill, damaging their future. Yeah. I think that the education system, in some cases, for the last 20 years, is why we have people who can't handle life now in any way, because they went home, played on a computer that if they died, they could reset, right? And they were allowed to shout and scream at this fucking thing without anybody looking at them and saying, fuck is wrong with you, right? And they spent a lot of time alone rather than around with mates where you iron out your social skills, right? You know, if you do something weird, everybody just turns around and you goes, what are you doing, you nutter? That's what we used to do. And like you go, yeah, that probably didn't look very good. And you learn how to interact with everybody else, right? And you learn to get along with the group as such, but they don't do that. And at school, everybody's a winner, but that's not the case in real life. And they're told that everybody's got to give them a safe space so they can just be the absolute little cunts that they choose to be, right? Or whatever, right? And nobody can question it. Then they go out into the hard world, can't handle it. Most of them end up either mentally ill, unemployed, suicidal, on medication for the rest of their days, which is great for the corporates, right? And, you know, we have for, I mean, schools that get better funding for this and did it for that reason. This is on you, by the way. The gaming, all these games consoles we gave to the kids when that shut the fuckers up. We thought it was a great idea at the time. That's backfired. What we've got is a generation of people that they all just shuffle around. They can't speak to each other. They don't know how to interact. You've got virgins now that are in their 20s, 25, 30. I mean, we got virgins in the 40s, actually, but that's another story. Oh, the cat. Where's the hoop? Nearly. The famous hoop. So anyway, it's a bit of happiness on the program. But yeah, to be honest, the other thing we should talk about, right, which is important, how do we fix these kids? When everything falls apart and fucks up and there isn't the safe space for them and there isn't all the rest of it, we've got to turn them from damaged to fixed somehow.
That's going to be so much harder. I mean, you look at, you know, I can see it when, you know, you go to some of these groups and, you know, going out to restaurants, things like that, and people just plop an iPad or a phone in front of their children. And then that's it. That's their interaction. That's happening more and more from younger ages. We're not interacting with our children as harder as it is. Sometimes,
but it's also the fact that kids will kick off. Kids have got an attention span of about 1.2 seconds now, right? And because parents weren't allowed to like discipline their kids physically, right? There's no threat. Look, everybody, and then people aren't going to like this, right? But life is based on violence, right? If I don't do this, right, my parents will smack me. If I break the law, the police will come and take me away, if necessary, under violence. If I'm really bad, I will end up in prison. If I upset people in the real world, there's a chance the fucker might hit me, right? In the army, you will get beaten, right? I know it's not supposed to, but I knew that if my mum gave me a look, right, that if I didn't sort myself out straight away, that when I got home, I was going to get it. That was my discipline.
Me too.
You didn't put a fucking iPad in front of me. We didn't have one anyway. But even if I didn't want to concentrate, I knew that if I didn't concentrate, and behave myself, then I was going to get like punished when I get home. And that is the metric that that kids need, right? They understand in my day that there was a fallout to your actions. Your actions, if you get them wrong, they would hurt, basically. So you did what you were told. Now, the weaklings and the pathetic people would go, oh, that's vile, that's horrible. No, that's life. And that's how it is out there. All right. Now, you lot have softened all these kids up. Give me another example, and this won't go down very well at all. We had a cousin, and he was a cunt, right? He used to kick his mother, kick the teacher, kick everybody else, right? He used to throw a fucking fit. Anyway, mummy and daddy were going away, and we had to look after him. And he came to my house and he did something, and the old man hit him. Fuck knows, the kid launched the little bastard. And the shock on his face. And dad said to him, you ain't going to do that again, are you? No, he said. Got up. Was golden for the week. Absolutely a lovely kid. Moment his mum came here, turned to a cunt, kicked her. Discipline. You need it.
It's a tough one, though.
There is a difference between hitting and smacking, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you batter a kid, that's totally different. Where you give them a clip round the ear, smack on the bum, that's a no, you're not doing that. I just read a comment here saying that, you know, scary mums when they go quiet. Yes. When we go quiet, you know, it's gone terribly wrong.
My mate always used to say to me, he said, so you got home late? Yeah. Did you get a look, love? Yeah. And a look, love was shortly before you get look, love, and then you get a lap. Like, and that was it. I said, you get look, love. I said, I got two, actually. Well, yeah, there it was. But I didn't, as a kid, I did what they told me to. They could take me out for a meal. They could take me to a social thing. And me and my brother, even though my brother was a twat, right, at times, we still behaved ourselves. And we used to look at the kids that were fucking up, right? Like this. And my mother said, if you ever did that, woe betide you. And just looked at you, you know, and you're like, Well, that's parenting. And when that parenting has to come back, and when the breakdown of society comes about, you will need utter discipline. You'll need to follow your kids, follow your parents' instructions. Parents will need to be tough, and we'll need to take these kids that are damaged, right? Bring them into groups with other kids, right? And show them what they're capable of, what they can be, how tough and strong they can be, how resilient they actually are, and actually get competition between them so they actually want to win.
Being competitive is key.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you've got no incentive to aspire.
And also, labeling kids, right? So you get a load of kids, right? And one's particularly good at something, or one's good at another. And you go, right, he's good with his hands. He's not thick. He's good with his hands. Off you go. Fix him up there. This kid is good with technology. Put him into that. But don't be on it too long, because you got to get out and meet women. You fucking geek, right? And I believe that things at school, like army cadets that toughen kids up, wasn't so keen on scouts, whatever. But the national service, we would need to bring back. And these kids would have to go in and have meltdowns and all sorts. And we'd have to have like really, really strict fucking and old school sarges, you know, that will actually give you a fucking slap. But that isn't going to happen with the society that we've got now. But as I say, we've got to fix the kids and these damaged ones. I'm a girl. Pff, no, you're not, mate.
Yeah.
I just kicked you straight in the nuts. Those nuts hurt. What are they? Fucking imaginary? You're a fucking mush. Stop being a twat. Now, fucking, yeah, innit?
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, certainly in like a childcare setting, so like nursery, preschool, things like that. I know a couple of people work in them, and they're not allowed to say no. They're not allowed to call a child naughty. A child, since in the short time that I've been a parent, most of my job as a mother is saying no.
It's called parenting.
And it's saying that's naughty.
Yeah,
that is a bad thing you done. Because they need to have boundaries. If I say and affirm everything that she does as being stunning and brave,
she'll be feral.
She'll be feral, or she's not going to last that long, or both. You know, they fall prey to it. They fall prey to loads of stuff when they're not given boundaries.
By the way, no is
always going to push boundaries, but you as the parent are responsible for saying no. And teachers should be responsible and should not be put in stillness. Oh, we'll talk about our feelings. We'll do this. No, it's a hard no, and detention, whatever, if a kid's naughty. And the parents should back that up. But when we've got teachers that are backing up nonsense.
Yeah, it's criminal. Right, caller, I'm going to see if anybody else wants to come on and ask Anna questions. All right, mate. So I'll see you on the next one, buddy. All right.
Chatting.
Bye.
Nice one. Thanks a lot.
See you in a bit.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
Oh, anybody else want to call in and add something to this?
No.
I was thinking before this stream, I'd love to do a stream on something positive, like happy, that was good. I'd love to do it.
It would be so nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to have a YouTube channel that like makes people happy, that cheers them up, that tells them good news. But hey, I'll point it after you. Look.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Get in there. Oh, that's nice. Oh, right, got a call. And an appreciation line.
Hello, Simon. How you doing?
Living the dream, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not bad.
Go on.
I've got a suggestion of how we could maybe like pull society back from the brink of the toilet.
Okay. By the way, this doesn't ban me channel, does it? I got to ask. You know what I mean?
We don't have men's clubs anymore, and women's clubs are being erased by the men trying to join their clubs.
Yep.
So as private citizens, we all start our own mentoring groups where women, turf women, mentor other turf women, and term men mentor other term men.
Yep.
And we all stop all this stupidness. If we need to start our own learning centres, we can use a bit of technology. We can have people that are teaching trained, run online classes.
So these gentlemen clubs, can we make sure that you've got to go there with a shirt and a tie on, make it an effort? And, you know...
I don't be an online gentleman club. That's all we do. We forget having an actual building.
Right.
What you're doing right now, you could set up a separate website where people pay membership.
Mm-hmm.
You could have one of them little pop-up bars where people click with the male or female or one of the others. And if you click on any of the others other than man, they don't get access.
Right. I'd actually like real clubs
simple,
as well, where you network with others. But this is the reason they stopped that between gentlemen and also women, is because we end up supporting ourselves. You get that down the mosque.
Because we help each other out. If men knew how to use a tax code, like poor men knew how to manipulate the tax code like the rich did, would we still be poor? No, we'd all be helping each other out. Like, they've polluted language so much. Like, the National Trust, that bit trust at the end, is because a lot of rich people lost their houses back in the day, and the government couldn't afford to buy it back. So they put it in trust for the people, rather than bankrupting the country. And now they want to take down all the Christmas shit. So I say, we use the same old-fashioned language and start pulling our money from the banks, start setting up our own separate systems where we include people that are like-minded and exclude the wankers. You can say, oh, you can't do that, it's not inclusive. Well, we don't care. Take us to court.
Right, just a quick one. I'll answer a question. Rev, I don't know why you're relying on YouTube for your content when you could just use Rumble and be yourself with your followers and still get monetized. YouTube is against normal people. The reason is because not many people go on there because people are lazy and go on here. That's why I've tried it. I am on Rumble, and
Twitter as well.
This will end up on Rumble. But at the moment, we're going live to Facebook, 4 YouTube, and 1 Twitter at the moment. So we're on numerous platforms. So for me, it says there's 320 people watching over 4 YouTube channels, but it doesn't give me the numbers of how many are watching on Twitter or how many watching on Facebook. So I don't know, but there is. And we also know that the figures are fucked, because if I said to everybody, let's go to Rumble now, it's quite good. 50 people would leave here and 400 would show up on Rumble. So we know that the figures are fucked, but they do that. Anyway, sorry, back to the caller a minute, mate. Go on. Carry on.
Yeah, and I think it's down to us to like sort out society. We can't keep relying on the government. Doesn't care about us. The government cares about their profit line, their GDP, and that doesn't matter to the poor. What matters to the poor is, are our kids getting educated to a decent standard? Well, no, they're not.
I think
are our kids being pushed into stupid ideologies?
I think our government's here
to understand the outcome of
to destroy the country. Now, when Margaret Thatcher came to power, her cabinet said, well, Margaret, you've been a bit ambitious here. Our job is just to manage the decline of Great Britain. And she went, you fucking what? Now, that was then, like back in 79, 80, whatever it was. We have had governments since then which have literally managed the decline of our society, and they're still doing it now. And that's their job, because they're globalists, they're Bilderbergers, they're paid for by a certain group of individuals, and they're susceptible to bribery, corruption, and every other pile of shit. So we shouldn't take direction from them. And yeah, doing it yourself and setting up stuff like this. But I believe that as things get worse, people will get to a point of critical mass, and then they're just going to go mental. And then the alpha men who are at the moment in a job, working, supporting their family, will come out of that for 10 minutes with the others, organize everything, things get done.
We don't have to go to violence. That's the mistake that people make. Violence is what they want, because then they can order all these army folk that we can all see in our towns.
It's an inevitability.
Put on their uniform.
It's going to happen.
With their true masters.
We can't avoid violence.
Rather than fighting, you don't do violence.
It would be really nice if there was if it could be resolved in a non-violent way. But yet, like Simon said, there's just no other way.
Sorry,
1 week of non-working, their profit lines drop dramatically. Why do you think they have to keep on giving out money during the lockdowns?
But what they've managed to do over the last 30 years is make sure that because of the drop in wages and the raise in increase in living costs, that nobody has the savings to stay out of work for a week. The other thing they did was they brought in a lot of cheap labor from abroad. So if people took a week off, they get sacked and get replaced by the cheaper labor. So that's the problem.
You don't take a week off officially. You play them at their own game. They pushed all this COVID shit on us. So you just say you've got a cough, you're coughing up blood. Everyone at work says that. Doesn't matter if it's true or false.
I've also got a problem that I work for a private employer who's sound, who lets me do this. And also somebody called into him and said, by the way, you've got a racist working for you. He'd go, I know, fuck off. I mean, he knows it's not the case, but he would just literally troll the fuck out of him. But that's... I know what you're saying.
Maybe not going out of work for a day won't work, but if we can encourage all the Tesco's workers and the Asda workers and all these people that are being shat on every day to just use their power, like quit the unions. The unions are working against you, so everyone pulls the union membership.
The unions are Marxist, and they're pushing for the destruction. Arthur Scargill used the miners back in the miners' strike to try and break the government. He didn't actually give a fuck about them, right? And he said, I want to replace the conservative government and capitalism with Marxism. That was his actual aim, and he came out and said this. So that when Ian McGregor came and said, look, we'll come to a deal, we'll give him this much more and leave the pits open for X amount, he didn't want it. He just wanted to break the government. And the miners had broken the government twice before, a Labour and a Conservative, I believe. And that's what they wanted again. And it was just pure rampant Marxism. But now the government themselves are on board with this shit. They're just a scum. But yeah, let's get back on topic with regard to the kids. Okay. What we need to do is homeschool. If you've got kids, homeschool the fuckers. Like, seriously, you may not be a teacher, but the ones you're going to send it to, half of them ain't teachers either. They're political instructors. What do they used to call them? Political officers in Russia, I think they were. But this is what you've got. So teach your own kids and breed.
Lots and lots of children. Ladies, we need to get on it. Lots and lots of babies.
Get on it.
Get on it. Have lots of babies. We all know how they're made.
Feather your nest, girls. Get out. Get on it. Well, anyway, yes. So, yeah, I'm gonna probably wrap this up because you've got to get to the shop, and after that, you're gonna come into Discord. And
give me half an hour, and I'll be on Discord. Yeah, I've just got to get
answer some questions. And yeah, it's just letting people know or make them aware of this is what's happening in your schools.
Yeah. So, the only thing I will say is you have to challenge this. You have to go in with. I'm going to try and put together a fact sheet. I'll do it as a PDF. Simon, if you'd be happy to
shove it on
Discord, just so I'll put something together so you can confront, and you have to be really honest with your language. That's really, really important. We can't keep homeschooling our children forever. We have got to let the school know that we are the ones that are in charge, that they are our children, and that is their job to do the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. But when it comes to anything like values, when it comes to anything like this, they dare not do that. I know it's more than no outsiders. I know it's the whole education system is rife with this. But until we start pushing out and saying no, if they call you racist, homophobic, whatever, just be, I don't care. That doesn't matter. None of those words mean a damn thing. What's important is that we defend our children.
Right. Anyway, call up. Thank you for calling in, mate. I'll see you on the next one. You take it steady. And to you, Anna, thank you for coming on and giving us that stuff.
Thank you for having me. I know it's very, very depressing.
not the most upbeat one I've had, but it needed to be done. So, yeah. Okay, lovely. Right, I'm going to end the stream. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm going to be on not very long from now. I'm going to be speaking to Gran Torino, Rowan from Ireland. And we'll be telling, well, he'll be telling us all about more of what's going on over there, but also the persecution that he's got, because there are a lot more down the Marxist front at the moment, and they went after him viciously and vilified him in the press and everything else. So, yeah. So if you want to talk to Anna, let me just double check that I've got the link there still. I might post something completely different. There's the link. Anna will be in Discord in about half hour after she's popped to the shop, and she'll answer any of your questions there if you have any. I'm going to say goodbye and see you in an hour or so. So I'll see you in a bit. It's actually 7 o'clock. I'll see you then.
See you later. Bye.